Another episode of Prognofection. Oh yeah. Hey everybody, it's Jordan back with Prognofection. Yes, that's progress, not perfection, if anybody's wondering. So, I just wanted to throw a little bit of a curveball at everybody today and see if they're willing to challenge themselves to communicate assertively with themselves when negative self-talk happens, or when I guess the negative narratives can come in our head. I don't like putting labels on things anymore because today it's more of how can I challenge myself to accept this stuff, so that it's not negative anymore. Anyhow, let's get to the topic. Okay, so I going through treatment and all that stuff in the past. It's we get a lot of things thrown at us. It's all good stuff. I'm not saying it's bad. It's I just remember hearing a lot about communication and always being very confused about certain things that correlate with communicating. One of them being communicating assertively with people, because what that can do is not cause any argument. And then we get more of a, let's say, positive conclusion out of it. So I never understood that stuff before. God, I just had a hard time with all that. But it definitely makes sense, and it started to make sense after a certain amount of time. But I can tell you now today that it really, really makes sense now, because the big thing that I heard with assertive communication is when we are communicating assertively, it is stating facts, and we are establishing boundaries also. So what I mean is, let's say I want to go play bags with somebody, and somebody's visiting at my house, a friend or something like that. Uh, I I guess I would say, to be assertive, I would state the facts. Like, hey Joe Schmo, I've got um, two boards downstairs. I got some bags, and we've got nothing else going on for the next 4 hours or whatever. Uh, do you? I feel a little excited about wanting to play some bags. Do you want to go play some bags? And that's like assertively asking a question. So now let's put this into a little bit of a different perspective. I was talking to two of my friends earlier, and they were giving me some good insight on some things. We were both kind of collaborating on uh, expectations that we have when we know that we're going to go somewhere, or see some certain person, or whatever the case is. And I kind of told them how I would be with family if I knew that I was going to go visit some family for the weekend, and how I would internally put expectations on certain things because of the way that things were then. And then they told me that, growing up, and being around certain family, that they were taught to always look out for family no matter what, even if it can, endanger themselves a little bit. So there again, they're throwing expectations on there, with the idea that we could possibly hurt ourselves. Like, let's say this is not my story, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if we're gonna hang out with our Aunt Sue, and she smokes pot or whatever the case is, and a long time ago, maybe we used to smoke with them all the time, and we know that she's already going to ask, uh, do you want to smoke this or whatever, or do you want to go, do that? And we are already, setting ourselves up for um, how this is going to turn out, and possibly putting certain feelings on that future event that may happen or may not happen. So then this is also kind of the challenge that I get is, how can we communicate with ourselves assertively when these things are happening? Um, that create inner judgments and shameful thoughts. Well, I think of it like this. Like, we'll go back to Aunt Sue. Aunt Sue, you're a lovely lady. Um, she really doesn't exist. But okay, so let's say I'm gonna go hang out with her this weekend or whatever, and I'm already putting certain things uh, in the future, feelings, whatever. And let's say, okay, I'm kind of scared that she's gonna ask me to, drink or smoke pot or whatever the case is, and now I'm already afraid that that's going to happen and I don't know the outcome. Okay, rewind. So let's try that again. I'm going to hang out with Aunt Sue this weekend, and I'm in recovery, and I have changed my practices up on my path. And one of them is listening to my inner thoughts, narratives, and everything that comes with anything that can correlate to a shameful thought or inner judgments. So let's challenge ourselves. I'm gonna go see Aunt Sue, and this is assertively communicating to myself. I'm gonna go see Aunt Sue. So I'm gonna state the facts. The facts are, I'm gonna talk to her if she brings up anything about wanting to go drinking or smoking or whatever. And I'm going to let her know that, I'm in recovery and I choose a different path in my life today. I respect your wishes. If you, want to go do that somewhere else, that's your choice. When you're done, you know, I would appreciate if you know, came and talked to me after you were done, and I didn't have that stuff around me because many things could arise, and I get a little bit of fear when you know if I'm around certain things like that, and get a little uncomfortable with the feelings, and maybe triggers that could happen, whatever the case may be. So again, I respect your choice, your wishes. If you want to go do whatever it is that you go do alone or in your privacy, cool, and come back when you're done, and then we'll hang out after that. So these are things that are going on internally in my head. So what I did was I already stated the facts as to what it is I'm going to do. Not only that, but I set a little goal for myself. So when and if this were to happen, well, I handle it accordingly, the way that I was just saying. Not only did I communicate with myself assertively so that I can communicate with her assertively, but I also just established the goal. And if that happens and I handled it the way I said that I was going to handle it, I just achieved my goal. So, super kudos to myself and anyone else that does that. So I don't want to forget about the fact that this topic is about assertive communication with ourselves, and how when we practice it with ourselves, we are really being true to ourselves because we're understanding the feelings and the thoughts that come with it. And I guess what that's doing is it's kind of empowering ourselves so that we can feel more and we can become more vulnerable, because vulnerability is a strength and not a weakness. Don't be confused by that. I want to tell you that when we do find ourselves uh, going and helping ourselves for family, I'm just circling back to what my friends were talking about because I wanted to just touch on that a little bit. But when we find ourselves helping family and we are carrying that belief that we grew up with all of our lives of um, we help our family no matter what, even if it can endanger ourselves. I've done that, um, and the thing to remember when it comes to that is when we are working with ourselves and working on ourselves to think better and fulfill our lives a little more, take a step back and remember that we are carrying a belief that isn't exactly true to ourselves, and learn to establish the boundaries internally before we establish the boundaries externally. Because if we want to be true to ourselves and really get somewhere close to this authentic self so we can be a little more fulfilled, I think it's important to remember that if somebody in my family needs a little help, um, recognize, all the little things that, can be productive and not so productive, and the thoughts that come with it and the feelings, and then establish those with myself and say, like, I know that I need to have maintain a little bit of distance for certain reasons. It would be helpful if I did it this way, and then establish them with whoever might need help in that manner also. So basically, what it boils down to is when we learn how to communicate assertively with ourselves, we can communicate assertively with other people, and with the more practice we get, the more confident we get, and now we are easily and readily establishing these internal boundaries easier. Thank you. Like and subscribe.